Thank you for joining the last edition of Journalist Hangout this week. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, labor unions and civil society groups demand probe of Kachiku's allegations. Willie Obiano kicks off re-election bids as Ngige heads APC campaign, and later in the program, PDP woes ex-governor of Osun State, that is Oyinlola, for 2018 governorship poll. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Afolabi Akinola, and Ismail Umekwidan. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Oil boom in any country raises hope of prosperous economy. But Nigeria's case is different. The boom has bred its greatest doom. In the last decades, leaders in Nigeria have shown unimaginable capacity to steal. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, is one of the big animals that generously satisfy their kleptomania. Nigerians had thought that President Muhammadu Buhari will reform the NNPC and set it on the path of transparency, but it seems not much has changed after all. The leaked letter of Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibe Kachiku, to his boss shows that impunity still reigns at there. Many Nigerians and civil society organizations are calling for the probe of the group managing director of NNPC, that is Mekanti Baru, for awarding contracts to a tune of $25 billion without following due process. Is President Buhari still Nigeria's Minister of Petroleum? How did this happen? Jide, beyond this last question, I'm looking at, is it not wise for President Muhammadu Buhari to drop that portfolio, first of all? As in, we have a president that is grappling with so many problems in different sectors of the economy. And to still be keeping that petroleum portfolio, I don't care whoever is the substantive minister, but I think to ensure that NNPC is placed on the path of which we want. So should he continue to hold that petroleum? I think he got this from Olusegun Obasanjo, that was the Minister of Petroleum himself throughout, that he just had Kubolukun and Gayos Obaseki to at his beck and call. Yes,
and he also ensured that NNPC's account was never audited throughout his 8 years. But the same Obasanjo will stand on rooftops and be proclaiming probity and be showing himself to people like the cleanest individual on the face of the earth. But we all know what transpired. No effort was made to audit the account of the NNPC throughout the Obasanjo years. So I do not understand why a president will want to keep that portfolio, because I do not see the difference that it makes. There's no fresh energy that you bring into it. There are Nigerians who are good enough to hold, such positions, who would do a good job if you can headhunt them and find them. We are never in lack of the right people, of capable people. It is the system that often consumes those good people when they get into government. Somebody was telling me that, look, that immediately he got into office, he saw clearly that if he wanted to continue to behave the way he was behaving before he got into government, that he would just spend all those years in frustration. So he told me, he said, Jide, Nigeria is a buffet. And everyone wants to just
take his
have his fill. And you know it is in buffets that you see the greed of the average Nigerian. Yes. He will pack into his plate what is not likely to consume totally. You do not need all those, like if for example, it's a 7-course meal. I remember one day in Kano, at a Chinese restaurant in Bompai in Kano. They had this, I think it was during Abiola's time, Abiola during the campaign, And then we started eating. all this funny Chinese food, you will see people pack their plate full. So my friend was telling me, he said, see these people, this is supposed to be a 7-course meal. But by the time we get to the 5th, these people will have their bellies already filled totally.
Two people get to the 5th.
Yes, you know, already filled with some funny looking Chinese food. And the rice and the chicken that they still have in store for you,
come second to the
you
last
will not be able to eat it. Some of them at the same time, we had 7-Up. They will go and grab 7-Up with all the plenty gas that 7-Up. They will quaff that 7-Up and still take gluten, elevated gluttony. At the end of the day, the prediction of my friend came to pass. These guys, their eyes were already blazing. By the time we got to the 5th course, they couldn't go any further.
And you know how the kind of discomfort you
yes.
feel when you overfeel yourself.
And then they were jealously looking at the rest of us who were just taking our time and eating the thing. It is during buffets that you see the greed of the Nigerian in bold relief. It is during buffet because they think that, oh, they have the latitude. But you see, hoteliers now, when you give a contract to an hotel,
guided buffet.
They will, yes,
that's
they will
why we have guided buffet.
Because they know that our people are extremely greedy. So they will. So someone will say, no, I think one is enough for you. One piece of meat is enough. They will guide you before you bankrupt them. They will make sure that they guide the process. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, look. The president does not really need to be the minister. I don't see the difference that it makes. He cannot stop people who want to steal from stealing.
In fact,
you remember I said this a long time ago, that even if the president puts a knife or a gun to people's necks, and I gave the example of his budget, I said his first budget, they will use that first budget to steal. And we saw it, the budget padding, which our friend that they successfully chased abroad, that the Dogaras of this world successfully chased away, called budget fraud. He said we should not call it budget padding, that we should call it budget fraud. That first budget of Mr. President was a study in monumental corruption. Within the 4 walls of Aso Rock, people sat down and were inserting stuff that naturally should not have gotten into that budget. So our people, as much as our president is determined to defeat corruption, there are people who are ready to kill to ensure that corruption is not defeated. So, and the truth is, in this case, that oil sector, if you've been monitoring NEITI and its reports, NEITI has been complaining since the 3rd quarter of 2015 that oil remittances not happening. It still remains a problem in the oil sector. Oil receipts not going to where it should go. Still remains a problem, and it has not stopped. I was reading, I think about 4 or 5 days ago, NEITI still came up, before even this whole thing blew into the open. NEITI still complained. Yeah, they still complained. It's a government agency, but just like the MBS, they routinely tell us the truth about
independence. Yes, a kind of.
Yes, that's the way it should be. So that's a pointer. You see, the oil sector is such a complex place that if you are not familiar with the way the oil sector runs, you will think you are supervising, but people will be they will be loading their pockets with money. You will not know.
Okay, Ismail, there was this allegation that, look, this Kachuku himself, by the time he got to the office, he became a tin god. And even Baru himself was posted out of NNPC, that it was posted out, you know, it was maltreated.
Posted out of NNPC?
Yes, I think maybe to one of the subsidiaries.
And that will still be part of NNPC.
So one of the subsidiaries.
Yes. So where did they go?
One of the NNPC's subsidiary and everything, that Kachuku was so stiff that he wasn't listening, and because Baru is a professional, they had to appeal to the presidency and they had to separate the GMD of NNPC and the Minister of Petroleum.
Well, I don't really have enough details on that, on whatever happened between Baru and Ibe Kachuku. But what I will say is that before Baru was appointed NNPC GMD, some of us knew that he was going to be appointed, because I recall very vividly that I did a report in June 2015, and the title of it was a cover story on The Sun. It was titled North Moves to Take Over NNPC, and a lot of people abused the hell out of myself and even the paper that what were we talking about.
They were very angry.
They were very angry about the report. Now, eventually, I want to believe very strongly that because of that report, they had to delay it.
It even leaked. It even leaked because on the website of the NNPC, on his website, that story was there, that he had been appointed. Then Kachuku said, no, that's not true, this and that. But now, after a few months, eventually it was.
What we are witnessing is not new as far as the Buhari administration is concerned. There has been consistent insubordination amongst senior and junior ministers, including among ministers and the president's aides.
And even heads of agencies.
I give you a typical example. At the National Assembly, at a public hearing, the custom boss said it pointedly to the Minister of Finance that I am not answerable to you. But we all know that custom is just a department under the Ministry of Finance. And for the head of that department to say in the presence of the minister that I'm not answerable to you, and nobody has called him to order to date. Come to the Ministry of Transport. Hadi Sirika, who is supposed to report to Amechi, does his things alone. You know, as if he's just there. He's an island unto himself. And the Ibe Kachuku thing. Now, what this has shown is that to those of us who are bystanders, it appears that the president is indulging them. Otherwise, they ought to have been reprimanded either publicly or otherwise for us to know whether, you know, the president is aware, you know, of some of these things. If you look at the NNPC board, the president's chief of staff is a member of that board. And from what I gathered, two of the president's chief of staff who once served on the board of UBA are also on the board of NNPC. Two of Kiari's friends, two of his Kiari's friends and associates who served in UBA together with Kiari are also on the board of NNPC. Yes. So technically speaking, Kiari is in charge of NNPC. Now, if Kiari is in charge of the NNPC board,
and there's the chairman of the board,
and the chairman of the board is a minister, and the NNPC GMD is approving contract without due process, it presupposes that it has the backing of certain persons within the presidency to do what it's doing. Otherwise, how the presidency handles this matter
will go a long way
to determine whether truly said bye-bye to impunity after voting APC in 2015 or not.
Let us even ask the question. When were these transactions conducted? When did these transactions happen?
Was it a public?
Were these, because I know that the president in the last 8 months
was not around,
has literally not governed the country. The last 8 months, from December, is not, really been completely in charge. For some of that time, he was attending to his ailment in the UK. So when were these transactions conducted? If we determine the time that these transactions happened, because I know the president was refusing to treat files on his hospital bed. So if we discover the time that these transactions happened, we will be able to tell ourselves, we'll be able to convince ourselves that this must have happened between the NNPC GMD and the chief of staff and probably one or two other persons.
Okay, let me quickly take this break. When Afolabi will be making his own submission immediately after this break, and we're still on the problem in the NNPC. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout. Afolabi, I don't know. Kachukwu raised in his letter that he has not seen the president for some time. And I looked, Kachukwu being a member of EXCO, and he has not been allowed to see the president. And this will tell you something about the way the officials around Mr. President, they are running this presidency, because of the way this administration is going. Because if a minister of state for petroleum, I was even thinking that he should be a member of the kitchen cabinet, as you know, if you can get that kind of position, one-time GMD, NNPC, and minister of state for petroleum, and we find it difficult to see Mr. President.
I think this is a mind-boggling situation. The APC-led administration made a very big mistake in not even allowing somebody in this kind of capacity to have access to the president in the first instance. Because the basis of text for anti-corruption crusade lies in the oil industry in Nigeria, which is a very big issue. I will agree with the fact that due process is bigger than any individual, whether you are the president, whether you are the vice president, whether you are the minister and all that. The due process is bigger than every individual, and again is a true text of what all progressive Congress stand to guide, which to me terribly they have failed. I will agree with the fact that with what some of our colleagues have raised earlier, that I'm not aware, and I'm not sure that Mr. President is not aware of this. Because if Mr. President is not aware, I agree with the fact that he has been on sick leave for some time. It shows that the government institution has not been vacant. After all, the vice president has been in charge. So for things like these to have at least gone so bad under this administration without any watch is a big problem. Because for now, the anti-corruption crusade in Nigeria is in a coma. Is in a very big coma. And this case is like a big test. So if you are not to any reasonable opposition party, if you are not able to establish the truth behind this matter, then it shows clearly that the Oshibajo Buhari-led administration is doing a very dangerous thing to even the party as an institution, because this is one of the things the opposition party will use to campaign against you. So I am not aware clearly, and I'm not sure that Mr. President, even if he's on sick leave, somebody is in charge. It is clear that the government has never been vacant. The institution governing the government of Nigerian state has never been vacant, even in the absence of Mr. President.
Babajide, this visual you are seeing now is Ibe Kachukwu saying Mr. President, that's the villa today.
Yes.
So that letter was written last month. It was leaked to the press just this month. That means if this letter hadn't been leaked,
October. It was written in August.
August. Ooh, it was even written in August, 2 months after. Yes. Thank you for that correction. It was written in August. And if since August he has not been able to see Mr. President, it's because of this leaked letter. One-on-one. This leaked letter. Ibe Kachukwu is now saying Mr. President today.
Yes, because Nigerians have been demanding explanations. You know, they want to know, get to the root of this thing. And look, what NEITI is saying is, look, contracts in excess of $25 billion, there's no way you can justify such contracts if it didn't pass through due process. There's no way.
$25
there is
billion.
No way. It's unacceptable. For that sum. It is the size of the contract that people are talking about now. A contract that big or contracts that big must pass through due process. And they are saying, look, that Nigeria, under the UN Convention Against Corruption, that Nigeria is obligated to investigate this. Nigeria is obligated to punish whoever is.
Did you think Mr. President signed in that contract?
I've said earlier that we need to know first when those transactions took place, because he didn't put date to them. Yes. Maybe it was last year, maybe it was. If these were things that happened in the last 8 months, then I have serious doubts. If it happened in the last 8 months, because the president in the last 8 months, until recently when we saw him, going to the UN, yes, it really showed that he's back to his best, Before then, he wasn't that strong enough to really get hold of government. So many things happened in his absence. So it depends on when these things, we need to investigate and find out when exactly those transactions happen. That is, when we discover that, we will be able to know whether the president actually sanctioned it. But one thing is certain, as the minister, the senior oil minister, Barrow could deal with him directly. He could deal with him directly. He could easily bypass the junior minister. He could easily do that, because what the president wanted in the first place, even when the president allowed Kachiku to hold both the GMD position and the Minister of State, was because he wanted to deal directly with Kachiku because of the humongous corruption in that sector, so that he can drive his reform and sanitize the place.
Let me quickly take this call. Abubakar is calling us from Kano. Thank you for hanging out with us, Abubakar.
Yeah, how are you doing there?
Very well. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening to all.
Good evening, Abu.
Yes, let me just contribute a little bit, because I am really disappointed, and this is not the change we have voted for. In every government situation, there are rules and regulations, and there are procedures to be followed. But unfortunately, there is a rift between the head of custom and the finance minister. There is a rift between Hasarika and NEITI. There is a rift between Magu and the Attorney General. There is a rift between minister and the DMD. So I cannot even understand somebody bypassing his senior to go to the president direct, to obtain approval. It's not proper. It's not what we voted for. And I should recall, his wife came vividly and told that he is not in charge. There are people that that surrounded him, and they're twisting the country. This is not in the interest of the nation. We voted for change. We want a realistic change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abubakar.
Thank you.
Okay. He also complained about the postings, the promotions, the postings and everything, which would have been ordinarily done by NNPC board.
You see, we are saying the same thing here. You see, I've been reading, Nigerians were very funny. We can defend even a bad situation, provided that
and defend Satan's actions.
You understand? I've been seeing some.
You see it on Facebook.
You see, some are arguing that it is not corruption, that is different from stealing. And I say that, look, corruption is not only about stealing. For crying out loud, the president told us clearly that he was going to implement a reform in the oil sector. And to that extent, what that presupposes is that, look, whatever that was being done in the past that was wrong, we must put a stop to it. There must be transparency in the running, of...
We're not saying that 25 billion naira has been pocketed by anybody.
No. Well, due process
Ingilari was jailed in Adamawa for awarding a contract that did not follow due process. That was the only reason why he was jailed.
Yes, not that he stole money.
Not that he stole money. The case is there. It's as recent. The case was decided just in June or so this year. So it's very clear. So sidetracking due process in itself is corruption. However you want to look at it.
As Jide said, as humongous as that amount is, $25 billion.
And you see, what this has shown very clearly that successful government have always looked towards NNPC to raise money for elections. Whether you like it or not.
That's what PDP is alleging.
Because if you sidetrack, if you refuse to follow due process, what it means is that you probably want to get a better cut from the contract for your cronies to do other things. Otherwise, why will you not subject a contract of that huge amount to due process?
My worry is if you sideline due process under an administration where people so much respect the integrity of Mr. President and the Vice President, because it is because of the integrity of these individuals that Nigerians voted for them in the first instance. It is because of the integrity.
Yes,
it is because of the integrity of these individuals that Nigeria, for now, having accepted the gift of change for them to come into power, we are passing through endurance. It is because of that trust.
Yes, now.
We are ready to.
When the subsidy, when they were to increase the fuel, the pump price, when people were arguing that, but we shouted that Jonathan should not improve, they said no. We know that Jonathan was going to steal the money. That was why we opposed him.
But this one will not from 97
to 147. They said this one will not steal the money. So
and Nigerians
kept quiet.
They kept quiet because of
integrity
with the money.
Because of integrity.
We must continue to strive at achieving a country that works. The country where due process is sidetracked is a country that cannot work. In a country where due process gets routinely sidetracked, honestly, that country cannot work. I'm alarmed at the selfishness of many people in the corridors of power. Because all they do is just think about themselves. We must continue to strive at achieving a country that works. The country where due process is sidetracked is a country that cannot work. In a country where due process gets routinely sidetracked, honestly, that country cannot work. I'm alarmed at the selfishness of many people in the corridors of power. Because all they do is just think about themselves alone. They do not think about the rest of us. But they are thinking about themselves. For everything, for every action, their concern is, will this fetch me anything? Because look, whatever quarrel that Mekanti Baru and Ibe Kachuku may have had, we, the Nigerian people, need them to work together. If they can't work together, then the president should fire both men.
Honestly.
The synergy is not there.
If they can't work, we need them to work together. We need the reform in the oil sector to continue. The president has stopped the idea of oil swap because oil swap encouraged officers to line their pockets. I'm happy that that has happened in the oil sector. We now do direct purchase and all that. I'm happy. But I'm disappointed about what I've had.
All right.
Except if someone can convince me that Kachiku just sat down and invented lies. Then I'll be very excited. I'll go to bed tonight a happy man. I'm not happy that due process has been sidetracked. Anywhere in the world, due process is taken seriously because when you do not follow due process, chances are that at the end of the day you are going to steal.
Okay, let's quickly take this breather. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout. Stay with us. Welcome back. Babajide, we're running off on this, and you wanted to make your intervention.
My final take on this is that it's shocking that for the first time to most Nigerians, this is a case where EFCC cannot even come in.
Why?
They can't come in.
They don't have immunity.
No, they can't come in. You know why?
The Senate is investigating.
There are a lot of presidential backings, which of course is not excusable for Nigerians. Because if Mr. President is not around, the office of the president is not vacant. Somebody should still be in charge. So if heirs will roll, as far as this matter is concerned, a lot of people will go. But it's difficult. I want to let you know that this is one of the most difficult cases for EFCC in Nigeria anti-corruption crusade.
In fact, the EFCC is quiet.
It has to be
The EFCC has not told you that it is interested.
They're not doing PIM.
No, well, you see, the thing is this. My take on this is this. Even though the president has investigated the grass cutter, we are yet to know
its
fate. You know. Now, I'm also aware that we are good at investigations in this country without necessarily taking action. But considering the caliber of Mr. President, considering the mantra of change with which himself and the party came into power, I will expect Mr. President to come out clean on this matter. And how do I mean? That this matter should be properly investigated, and whosoever is guilty of any infraction should be punished. And Nigerians should be made to know how the matter was settled.
Jide, this looks like a litmus test.
Yes.
For this anti-corruption fight.
Yes. Due process has to be followed at all times. As I said earlier, we cannot achieve a country that works if we do not follow due process. The concessioning of the aviation sector that we talked about here last week, after I spoke against it,
the next day,
four Nigerian newspapers did editorials demanding for transparency in the concessioning of the Nigerian airport, because we do not see any
sign. But the next day, Adisarika replied, he says it's a done deal.
Well, he can say what he likes. He can say what. Why wouldn't somebody who does not respect his senior minister? So how do you expect to respond to what an ordinary journalist talks about? So, but what we want, our country belongs to everyone. The country does not belong to Adisarika alone. What we are saying is that it should show us that this process, that the concessioning has been transparent. And 4 newspapers, just as I said earlier, 4 newspapers after our program did editorials making the same demands that I made here. So we can't be aspiring, we can't be talking about countries that work without doing those things that make those countries work.
I think there was an act that's...
the ICPC act that you're talking about.
Yes, the ICPC, what has happened, if indeed there was that I didn't follow due process, as Kachiku has alleged, it means that it is in breach of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act of 2000. So there's already
Act 2000. There's a
yes,
law.
If you are found guilty, there's already a jail term for that infraction.
I think over to Mr. President, this will go a long way to determine
we need him to act quickly.
The war on corruption. It's Nigerians are watching and they are so interested on this case because of the amount involved. $25 billion. Wow.
Money.
It's a lot of money. Moving on now, on November the 18th, the electorate in Anambra State will be going to poll to elect their governor. With the look of things, the election is about 2 titans who will be testing their political influence again. The incumbent governor, that is Willie Obiano, will go head-to-head with his Minister of Labour and Employment, that is Chris Ngige. Ngige is not on the ballot, but his party member, Tony Nwoye, is on it. On Thursday, the governor kicked off his re-election campaign and was quick to caution his supporters to shun violence. The All Progressive Congress has appointed the Labour Minister to lead a 50-man campaign team. The political atmosphere there is soaked in tension. In short, there's a lot of buzz in the air. How will the election pan out? Let's, gentlemen, Julie, let me start from you. Let's do a SWOT analysis on Willie Obiano and the factor that 4 years ago I was in Anambra State to cover the election, and when I saw the emergence of Willie Obiano, I saw the role Peter Obi played.
Yes.
It went all out, and by that time it got the support of the former president Goodluck Jonathan to be able to endorse his own candidates in ABGA, in spite of the fact that we had a federal government that has a PDP. Yeah. This same Tony Nwoye...
They didn't use federal might against
yes. Him. This same Tony Nwoye that is running under APC ran under PDP. So Tony Nwoye wasn't supported by the Abuja people.
Yes.
They rather went for...
He even did a press conference where he condemned his party.
And so they rather supported this Willie Obiano. But today, we don't know what happened between Peter Obi and Willie Obiano, but he's not going to have the shoulder of Peter Obi to lean on now.
No, you see, when he took him around, took him to market, he campaigned for him. Obiano has been a very ungrateful fellow. Obiano is going around saying that that Obi didn't leave 75 billion in the state coffers for him, both in cash and non-cash assets. But everyone knows that the man left a hefty sum of money to him. If someone made you governor, he brought you from the bank and made you governor, you cannot deny that he made you governor. And within a few weeks, you turned against him, you pushed him out of the party. He left the party abga for you. Because the party leaders sat, elderly men, called both men. And it was clear that the only solution is for one of them to leave the party. And it turned out that Obi had to leave the party for him. Obi and Ebiano are two different people. This one was very, very frugal.
Very frugal.
Maximum five motor convoy.
I've
The other man,
a commercial
25, minimum of 25
severally.
25 motor convoy. You know, this one continues to take charter flights and all that. Obi was not doing all that. Obi kept.
I'm telling you.
Obi ran that state in a very frugal manner and left so much in the coffers. Obi had no interest in expensive wines and all that. But Ebiano has tremendous interest
and appetite.
In tremendous appetite in expensive wines and all that. So both of them, the difference is like night and day. Now, I want to put, although it may not, because the script says so, it's a two-horse race. I would like to put the PDP candidate in the
yes, because
I would like to
that
put the
assertion
PDP.
might not be right. That is
Yes.
and we even have one, what's the name?
Chijoka.
Chijoka.
Yes, it's also
partly a factor, but
yes.
it's not running under a popular
But you
party.
see, the thing is, one, it can be like what happened in Ondo State. All three candidates did well in the final analysis. To the extent that if the third and the second had come together, we could be looking at the possibility of defeat for the eventual winner. That happened to Iroko in 2012 or so. That if the second and the third candidate had come together, they would have won. So I want to put the PDP candidate in the mix, because the PDP candidate has the privilege of being supported by Obi and some former PDP, some PDP members in the state and all that. So he too will give his best. He will play his part. It's unfortunate the kind of politics that we play in Nigeria. The winner takes all kind of politics. Somebody helps you to get to office. You don't want to see that person. Ebiano may still clinch the thing.
As we are looking
as
at
the incumbent, it is still possible. Though many of the big wigs within, in that state, have actually left for the APC, you know. But even within his own party, you will find people who are abusing him on account of his ungrateful nature. And the fact that he's saying, oh, this person didn't really do anything, he has not achieved anything and all that. So I look forward to a very eventful contest. I know that the APC is interested in having a good showing because they want to show that, look, the perceived hatred of the APC in the Southeast has gone with the 2015 election. So some people, from that area, they've also benefited at the federal level and all that. So they can at least give their best and ensure that their candidate does well in the election. So Owoye has been on ground for some time, so we should expect that.
I wanted to talk about that Owoye too. Ismail, when you look at the last APC primaries, I was shocked. They had over 5,000 delegates. And when I saw the Uche Ekwenife of this world in APC, when I saw, the Senator Andiwa and, all the cream de la cream within the All Progressive Congress and the number of delegates that actually participated in that primaries. And I said, look, this is not the trend in 2015, as Jide rightly said earlier, that, APC is a good show in some of these southeastern states.
I agree with Mr. Jide's analysis that the APC will give a good show. But my fear is this. All the stakeholders in Anambra, including all the candidates, apart from the ABGA candidate, they are in agreement that Obiano is not doing well and that there was need to take him out. But my fear, just like Mr. Jide expressed, is that I hope what happened in Borno in 2007 will not happen to them. In 2007, everybody was of the agreement that Sheriff should be kicked out. And that saw the likes of Kumalia, Kakina, and the big wigs in the ANPP then moving to PDP to team up to send Sheriff out. Unfortunately, at the primaries, there was crisis between Kashim Imam and Kumalia. Kashim picked the ticket of PDP, and Kumalia left for ACN, as it was then known. And I told them then, I said, look, Kashim Imam will not win. Kumalia will not win. Sheriff will emerge, and he will send all of you out of
Ismail, just hold your breath. Just hold your breath. Let me quickly take this break. When we come back, we'll round off on this. Please, it's still Journalist Hangout. Stay with us. It's the last lap. Let me quickly take this call from Abuja. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you so much for having me. Well done, Jide and the crew.
Thank you.
For me, as a Nigerian, honestly, I'm very worried. I'm worried because the signs we are having right now does not go well.
Yeah.
Because from what I can deduce, it's like we have a presidency that there is no coordination. When Aisha Buhari came out to tell the whole world that the husband is not in charge, a lot of people did not know to what extent this has gone. This is a presidency that the president nominated Magu. Somebody in the same presidency wrote a letter indicting Magu. As we speak till now, the same appointee of Mr. President still has his position despite going against the wishes of Mr. President. Now, to this Kachuku case, I'm also more worried because Mr. Kachuku should report to the president, being a junior minister, to bring him abreast with happenings in the oil sector. And this hasn't happened. Now, this emergency meeting, was it summoned because the letter written by Kachuku was leaked? Or Mr. Buhari did not even get the letter in the first instance? I think when we bring up...
Maybe he didn't get it.
I'm telling you.
It's possible.
Thank you, Lucky, for raising those intelligent questions.
May not even have
so as I was saying, it is in the interest of the stakeholders in Anambra to come together and support one candidate against Obiano. Otherwise,
Obiano will still win.
They may end up losing it.
When you look at the pedigree of Tony Nwoye,
no, Tony Nwoye is a strong candidate because don't forget, like Mr. Babide said, at the primaries, Andy Uba had thought
he's
that
been working for 4 years.
Andy Uba had thought that he was
and he used to be PA to Andy Uba.
Honestly, I was shocked.
At the primaries, Andy Uba thought he was going to pick the ticket.
I was shocked.
He was sure of his game. He was sure of his game plans.
And
he was sure of his strategy.
Unfortunately,
he had forgotten that an apprentice can turn out to be a master game player. More, can play
more adept than this other.
Than the man who taught him how to play the game. And if you look at Nwoye's first outing in 2014,
44 years ago,
despite the fact that his party did not support him,
second.
He gave Obiano a good fight.
Yes, he came
What
second.
it meant was that if the party had supported him, he probably would have won that election.
If they had used federal might, at least.
Yes, the normal.
So as it is now, Obiano is very, very jittery. But my fear is that I hope they will be able to put their acts together because up to now, Andy Uba has not forgiven Nwoye. He has his own.
There are some aspects that Obiano has been able to hold his own. They even call him a alert governor. They said on the 26th every month, pam, pam, is a labor-friendly governor, according to what we gathered. And when you get to Oka now, you see bridges all around Oka. If you've not been there 4 years ago and you go to Oka now, you will see street lights and everything. And, you know, just will remind you of the Lagos model. You see the police cars, security, water tight around Oka and everything. And people will be looking at what will be his selling points. Have you seen anything unusual about Willie Obiano that will make him have edge over the ambassador from the PDP and Tony Nwoye?
Let me just put it straight this way. I think Anambra State, if we are to write any political book on the history of that state as far as politics is concerned, it will be sellable all over the world. This is a state where in the first instance, the governor or the sitting governor of the state was abducted. That's
they have Chris Ngige
was abducted. I've never seen that. In fact, with the full weight of immunity in this country. And all that. And again, this is a strong lesson for most Nigerians, especially if you are in power today. Because the basis of you as somebody in power is to ensure that one way or the other, when you are no more there, the person you have behind will, of course, support your vision and ensure that the dividends of democracy is well delivered. I will, on this note, congratulate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu for being a very good man in the sense that he has been able to establish a kind of successor that will not reduce him to nothing. I mean, it's very important in life because no matter what you have, your disciples are very important. After Jesus Christ have gone, at least some disciples are still able to carry out some of his assignments. So what I'm saying in the first instance is that I felt betrayed. I can see a lot of excruciating pains as far as Peter Obi is concerned. He felt disappointed, and again we all knew clearly after he has made several submissions as far as what he left behind in the cover of this. And again, as a banker, you can't be lying with figures. You can't be lying with facts that has to do with banking institutions. And somebody came and said that
he doesn't want to give him credit.
And
somebody
said all the attack dogs of the governor came on Obi.
Obi said it clearly. He said when he was taking him around in 2014, he told the people of Anambra that if the man fails to deliver on his promises, he will personally lead the campaign against him. And that this campaign against him to stop him from being re-elected is not a personal fight, but it's in fulfillment of the promise he made about 4 years ago.
So what I would just say as far as this issue is concerned is that I'm appealing to average Nigerians, whether in Anambra State or in any state in Nigeria. I still believe that sovereignty belongs to the people.
Yes.
Sovereignty, our franchise should be cleverly used. So irrespective of who is involved in this matter, the average Anambrians should see the sanctity of ballot box as the only instrument
they should go and speak, on the 18th of November and choose whoever they want.
That is what I feel.
Babajide, what role will that our short, very fresh minister, what difference will he make? We call him Onwa.
Yes, that's to push the APC agenda, to market the APC to the people of the Southeast. Because he's one of the leading lights
guys
in this administration.
That was an ACN before.
So this election is an opportunity for him to show that he's got what it takes. Many people still believe that if Obi had not played that ethnic card, you know, Obi can be a very funny character sometimes. If you had not played that ethnic card, in Lagos, I mean, over the deportation that Ngige will have won the election. That was what really worked.
I remember that case.
So close to the election at that time that Fashola made that mistake. You can't deport people within a country. Lawyers like Falana had to come out that it's even against the laws of our land. And we had a lawyer as governor in Lagos State, and he was sending people from Lagos to their respective against the laws of our land. At the end of the day, the party paid heavily for it. A popular candidate who was filling campaign arenas eventually could not win because of the mistake of someone in Lagos. So I just hope that Ngige can rise, above this and ensure victories for his party. One thing that people are saying in Anambra is that Ebiano has only been favoring people from Aguleri. They say it's clannish and all that from his own area. You know, he has completed about 35 roads in his community alone, leaving people in more than about 170 communities in the lodge. So you can't do that in an election year. If they use that to campaign against you, you are not going to find it funny. You know, so it promises to be a very interesting contest.
We are going to be giving them you guys updates. Now I want to thank you, Afolabi Akinola and Ismail Omekwino. Today it's Friday.
Yes.
So anytime it's Friday, we know that we are not here Saturday and Sunday. So Journalist Hangout returns on Monday, and that's our offering this week. Join us next week for another interesting episode of Journalist Hangout. You can watch the repeats tonight on DSTV 418, GoTV 45, and all our major platforms. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on YouTube, and you can see it. That is youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Bye for now. Nice weekend ahead, and God bless Nigeria.